This is part two of Facts for Shareholders of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. This is written by the Bible students and copyrighted by the Watchtower Society, November 15th, 1917. And previously, the first video, we talked about the channel of communication from God. This time, as to the 7th volume, here the Bible students reveal truth to the reader. They say, do you know that the 7th volume is not the posthumous work of Pastor Russell? For it does not present anything that Brother Russell prepared beforehand, which was published after his death for the first time. Do you know that the 7th volume is a misfit penny so far as the parable of the penny is concerned? Do you know that many of the strongest advocates of the 7th volume are those who have never read the book? Do you know that the 7th volume did not go through the channel, and that it was not mentioned in the tower previous to its distribution, and did not pass the inspection of the board of directors or of the editorial committee? Do you know that the publishing of volume 7 was an expediency to forestall any others who might publish one, not because of any new light, and that Brother Rutherford, before his election, in recommending that it be published, said that because of the long desire of the Friends for it, anyone who published one could get from $40,000 to $50,000 out of the Friends, and to forestall this, without the knowledge of the directors or the editorial committee, the volume was prepared and issued? Do you know that in March, Brother Woodworth prophesied to Brother Ritchie that Volume 7 would be published in October, and that it would immediately bring great persecution to the saints, but that for special reasons Brother Rutherford hurried it out in July, and it has not yet brought the predicted persecutions? Do you know that Volume 7 prophesied that the war would cease on about October 1st, but that the war is more severe than ever? Do you know that the interpretation of the Song of Solomon in Volume 7 is not the posthumous work of Brother Russell, but was written by Brother Woodworth and sent to Brother Russell several years ago, and that he laid it away and it was found and returned to Brother Woodworth at his request after Brother Russell's death? Do you know that Volume 7, page 58, states that Brother Russell was seen to stand in one position all night in prayer, whereas in the Bethel dining room on 2 occasions he very plainly said he had never prayed all night, nor over half an hour at a time, and that he did not see how anyone could do so without ignoring the Lord's injunction to avoid vain repetitions? Do you know that page 229, volume 7, teaches that Brothers Woodworth and Fisher trod the winepress at Scranton, but that Brother Rutherford now urged the Friends to use volume 7 to gather the clusters of the vine of the earth after the winepress has been trodden? Do you know that volume 7, page 230, sets forth an assumed proof of the divine origin of the book, and that it is based upon the distance from Scranton to Bethel, but that the 1,200 furlongs is an error found in only one obscure MS, and rejected by all scholars, and none of the work was done at the imaginary point between the author's homes, and that none of the mail travels the route selected by Brother Woodworth to make the distance agree, but it goes over the Brooklyn Bridge to the Brooklyn Post Office, 5/8 of a mile beyond Bethel, and is carried back to that place, and that it is very improbable that any portion of the manuscript came that way unless Brother Rutherford or Woodworth specially brought a portion to make guesses fit. Do you know that the author of the 6 volumes of Studies in the Scriptures, Brother Russell, was the editor of the Watchtower? Do you think it proper for the president of the society to permit and encourage two outside brethren to write the book and then for him to secretly issue it without the knowledge of the society and the directors and without the knowledge or participation in writing or correcting of the volume by the editors of the Watchtower? Do you think that if, as Brother Rutherford claims, the Watchtower Society has been used by the Lord as the channel for business matters for the harvest work under Brother Russell as the Lord's servant, that the seventh volume should be copyrighted in the name of the People's Pulpit Association instead of the Watchtower Society? Do you know that the money for the seventh volume did not come from the Watchtower Society, but was diverted from it to the direct issuance of the volume without the knowledge of the directors or editors of the Tower, and that therefore the volume has not been issued as stated under the patronage or copyright or order of the Society, and is not therefore a product of such channel? Do you care about this? Or will you stand for anything or anybody who is able to control the Society by craft or force, or otherwise, whether they be right or wrong? Does it not seem probable that Brother Rutherford's action in appointing new directors at Pittsburgh, July 12th, was because he feared that if the directors discovered what he was doing with regard to the seventh volume, that they would insist on having the editorial committee edit it, and that the bylaws which they might pass on July 20th would enable them to take some control and to learn of his secret plans and purposes so as to hinder the distribution of this doctrinal matter? Why was it that Brother Rutherford was afraid to have the directors and editorial committee pass on the book? What made him think that it would be objectionable to them? Has he not said in his Harvest Siftings, number 2, page 26, column 2, paragraph 2, that had the four brethren continued to be quiet, and had not shown a disposition to look into what he was doing in the Society's affairs, there would never have been any attempt even to call in question the legality of their office? Do you think it was right for Brother Rutherford, thinking they were illegally in office, and the strange part of it all is he was just as much illegally in office as they were, to countenance and act with them as directors, and then throw them out when he got tired of them, knowing he could do it all the time as he thought? Do you not see that anyone wishing to do wrong would probably have done the same thing? Do you not see that he claims he had no quarrel with them before June 17, about which time the seventh volume was finished and being put out by the publishers? What do you think caused him to deceive these brethren with whom Brother Russell found no fault, and of whom, up to this time, Brother Rutherford had no reason to complain? Who gave him authority, as one member of 7, to act thus? Do you think that Brother Russell would have approved such conduct? Do you think that the Lord approves of it? What is there about the seventh volume that makes it necessary to put it out in this way? Do you care whether it is doctrinally correct or not? Do you know that Brother Rutherford's penny is printed in only one language, and that it will be impossible to have it translated into the various languages before this time set for the glorification of the church, springtime? And thus, if this be the penny, the foreign-speaking brethren are greatly disadvantaged. Do you know that since it will be impossible to translate the seventh volume into all the different languages by springtime, the prospects for foreign language brethren getting into the kingdom, if the seventh volume be the penny, are very remote? Do you know that the seventh volume teaches that the great company will be developed after the resurrection? See page 585. Do you know that Brother Russell always set forth the fact that the truths recorded in the Revelation are not for the world, nor for nominal Christians, but for the church, the body of Christ, the saintly ones, the church of the firstborns, which are written in heaven? See forward, page 3, top of page, Battle of Armageddon. Do you know that Brother Russell never resorted to the method that if you do not get out and sell one of his volumes, you will not get into the kingdom, as some have done respecting the 7th volume? So here is your Watchtower Society and the truth of the 7th volume.
2 months after Russell's death, Joseph Rutherford was appointed to oversee the work. Rutherford had been a close associate of Russell, traveling with him and speaking in his defense. Like Russell, he believed that the good news had to be preached. He was dynamic and could not be intimidated. Yet not everyone appreciated these traits, even among the Bible students.
Brother Rutherford, he was an entirely different personality, brusque in manner, and he didn't fear to tread on anyone's toes. I think this had a tremendous test on the brothers, because they were really worshipping the creature more than the creator.
Rutherford directed that Russell's notes for a 7th volume of Studies in the Scriptures be compiled into a new book called The Finished Mystery.
On the day that the book was completed and he had a supply in his office, he arranged for the brothers to put one at each table place in the dining room. And so when the family came down to eat, each one had a copy of the book, The Finished Mystery. Some were quite curious about it and wondered what it was all about and enthused about it, but there was already a growing tension in the family because some of the responsible brothers sort of resented Brother Rutherford. Some of them had ambitions for themselves, so they used the occasion to bring accusations against Brother Rutherford for having gone ahead and published this without their permission and their knowledge. And the result was eventually about a 5-hour tirade against Brother Rutherford, where a number brought a lot of unjust accusations against him. Brother Macmillan tells that, well, that day they left the dining room and most of the food was uneaten and the family was very sad.
But in the community at large, people were taking note of the finished mystery.
They originally planned on a distribution of about less than 100,000, and within a short time, over 850,000 copies had to be printed.